Today we're talking about the Sentinel Comics RPG Starter Kit. So I haven't had a chance to play this yet, so today we're just going to do a little overview and tutorial. So you get the thing, and it comes with this cover booklet, which kind of makes a decent little GM screen. That's nice. Let's do what we do with screens. You're also going to get the gameplay guide with all the rules. You're going to get 6 booklets of the adventure. Each one of these is supposed to run about 90 minutes. The first 2 and the last one have to be done in that order, but the middle one, 3, 4, and 5, they can be done in any order. Oh, and this, we got a bookmark. That's cute. And finally, we have these 6 character booklets where we're probably going to be spending most of our time today. And the 6 characters we got are Absolute Zero. He's sort of a good guy, Mr. Freeze. He has to stay in his cryo suit or else he'll die, keep his temperature nice and cold. Bunker, probably one of the more difficult people to play. He's got a robot suit. It transforms into 6 different forms. Well, one of the forms is him outside the suit with a gun. I wouldn't recommend that if you can avoid it. But you got these 6 different modes, and each one gives you access to a different set of powers and also a special ability you can use and other rules. Like the turret mode is really offensive and gives you a new big gun ability, I'm guessing. But these robot arms come out and lock into the ground like a siege tank from StarCraft, and so you can't move at all, and they have different restrictions. And that's cool, that could be a lot of fun, but if you're just starting a new game, you don't want that extra layer of complexity. I don't necessarily recommend him if you can avoid it, unless you want to. Legacy is your standard Superman, Captain America clone, leader, tough, strong, fly, danger sense. He's got a lot of buffing and some group healing, team protection, that sort of shit. Tachyon, speedster scientist who thinks as fast as she can sprint. And let's see, she's got inventions, so she could probably whip some inventions up, or just has them run home across the state, run home and get inventions, I guess, and do stuff with them. Unity, like Bunker, is another kind of complicated character to play because she has these robot golems she can make. She's a technopath. She can manipulate technology with her mind. She can shape metal and project electricity. Mostly she uses this to make robots, and she has her own special chart when she crafts a robot, determine how big it is. But she can't craft the biggest one right out of the gate. But if you make some preparations ahead of time before you spawn the golem, you can actually add some abilities, special unique abilities, like you can make it so it can fly, or you can make it explosive, you can make it stealthy, but she's only as complicated as you want her to be. You can ignore the whole golem thing if you want, or only dip your toe in and just spend the rest of your time just shooting lightning at people or doing some basic stuff. You can make it a bit easier on yourself if you want to. Wraith is Batman. Sans penis. That's it. She's a detective, she's got a grappling hook, utility belt, she's a wealthy CEO, stealthy, and she's got throwing knives. She's Batman. So those are the 6 characters to choose from. If you want something a bit simpler, more straightforward, Legacy, Absolute Zero, Tachyon, or Wraith is your best bet. But if you don't mind something a bit more complicated, Bunker or Unity is the way to go. This game uses your standard polyhedral dice, your D&D dice, a bunch of other games use these. Why couldn't the D20 have fallen? I don't need the D20. You don't need the D20. Everything else. All of your dice, your die that you could roll, could range anywhere from a D4 all the way up to a D12, so you don't need the D20. You do, however, need the D8, the D10. No, my other D10 fell. Good, I don't need that one either. Okay. D4 all the way up to D12. Those are the dice you need. Actually, you're going to want 3 sets because you roll 3 dice, and any one of those dice could be one of these. You're definitely not going to roll 3 D4s, but you might roll, 3 D10s or any combination of these. But those are your dice, and we'll go into how you figure out what dice to roll in a minute. But anyway, you describe what you're doing, you grab the appropriate dice, and also you pick an action, whichever action is most relevant. And everything in this game, more or less, boils down to 5 basic actions that everyone can do. There's also a 6th action that only some people can do. We'll get more into that in a minute. So you roll your 3 die, but you don't add them. Not typically. You can in some circumstances, but typically you don't actually add them. Instead, you just put them in order from highest to lowest. And it's the middle value, the middle number, that determines how effective your check was. So let's say here I got a a 4, a 9, and a 12. My lowest die 4 is my min die. My middle die is my mid die. I'm sure there'll be absolutely no confusion whatsoever. Min die, mid die, and your highest die is the max die. So by default, anytime you roll one of the 5 basic actions, the middle die will determine what happens. So let's say this was an attack action. I want to punch some dude in the face. So that means I dealt him 9 damage. Just like in the game, there's no accuracy or anything. There could be damage resistance, which might reduce that 9 damage, but the attack hits. So there's no armor class, there's no difficulty die or anything like that. Now, if this were the defend action to protect myself or someone else, then the next time they take damage, it would get reduced by 9. Boost and hinder allows you to create basically a one-time consumable item. Not necessarily a tangible thing in universe, but a consumable. In fact, you could write down on an index card or a piece of paper, hand it to the person. Like Legacy could be inspiring Bunker because he keeps fucking up his rolls all night. So I'm gonna do a check, do the boost action to write, let's see, I rolled +2. Okay, +2 pep talk. Give it to that person. The next time they roll a check where getting a pep talk would help them, which I guess could be just about anything, they spend that and get the +2 on the appropriate check. If you're doing hinder, it's the same thing but with penalties. And then finally, the overcome action is basically for everything else. Every miscellaneous check you could think of, stealthing past someone, talking to someone to get information out of them, lifting something heavy, resisting poison, likely going to be the overcome action. And you just follow on the chart and it'll tell you what happens. Maybe the action succeeds with a minor or major twist, which is a bad thing. The GM just says happens to you. Whichever twist makes sense to happen to you, it happens. And he has a list of suggestions, but of course he can make it up his own just to fuck with you, which is great. Okay, now if you turn to this section of your booklet, looks like this. This is where most of the magic happens, the actual gameplay stuff. In the top left, you'll find 3 columns: powers, qualities, and status. These are the 3 areas where your 3 dice are going to come from. Every time you roll a check, you're going to grab 1 power die, 1 quality die, and 1 status die. Now, the power and quality die are pretty straightforward. You have different powers and qualities, which I guess are like skills, could be types of knowledge, schools of knowledge you're very familiar with, or other background stuff. Wraith has wealthy CEO, Legacy has history, but I guess he's a history buff. You also find like close and range combat in the qualities section, but 1 power, 1 quality, and then status. You grab a status die, which your status is basically how dangerous of a situation you're in, which is both based off of your hit points and also the scene itself. Basically, if you're in the top third of your hit points and the scene's at the very beginning, you're at the very beginning of the fight, you're safe. You're in the green zone. Your green status is what you have. Therefore, you're going to roll your green status die, and also, you'll only have access to your green abilities here, which we'll get more into in a second. But basically, as you move up to the more severe status, you'll unlock these other sections of abilities there. So let's say Legacy is a green status, so for a status die, he's going to have a D6. He actually gets much better as things get more dangerous. Some characters get worse and some stay the same, it all depends. But he has a D6 for a status die, and let's say he's punching someone. Okay, well what power is most useful for that? Strength, no shit. Also his strongest one, so we'll grab one of our D10s. What quality do we use? Close combat, pretty straightforward, and that is a D8. And it is, of course, an attack action, so we roll our 3 die, and the middle die of, let's see, 4, 4, 5. So 4, we do 4 damage. But let's say he wants to do a knowledge check. He wants to do a check that involves history for some reason, whatever. He has the history quality, and he wants to make use of it, so he wants to do a knowledge roll to see if he knows a thing. So, history, he has a D8, we'll grab the D8. D6 for a status die. Power. What power do we use? Vitality, strength, flight, awareness. None of them. None of them make any sense whatsoever. So, no power is relevant, but we still need 3 die. And if you're rolling a check, but none of your powers or none of your qualities fit, well then you'll have to basically do it untrained, so to speak. You grab a D4. This is the only time you'll actually roll a D4. I'm not aware of any status die that are D4. D4 is supposed to be like human level. 6 is above. 12 is, I think, godlike, they call it. Anyway, 4 on, that would be an overcome action, a knowledge check. 4 gives us action succeeds, but with a minor twist, and the GM will tell me what happens. Oh, also, fun fact, some of the twists are based directly off the roll, and the more effective your roll, the better your roll. Essentially, the worse the twist is. Like if they decide that the appropriate twist is damage, the better I roll, the more damage I take. Next we have our abilities section, which is really going to be your bread and butter for the most part. 3 different colors. You only have your green abilities to start off with, which is roughly half-ish. But as the scene goes on, or if your health diminishes, then you can get access to your yellow, and then finally your red abilities. It depends on what the most severe situation is. So if your health points are full, you're in the green status, but you could be at the end of the scene, which if the scene ends, you lose and something bad happens, which is awesome. Anyway, if that's in the red, then you're red status. You always take the worst one, and you would have access to all of your abilities in that case. Anyway, abilities, what they are, basically, they're like advanced actions, beefed up versions of the basic action. So Legacy's Thok attack, which is one of his yellow abilities, allows him to use his max die instead of the mid die for damage. Also note that it tells me to attack using strength, so the power in this case is chosen for me, and most, if not all, will choose a quality or a power for you that you have to use, and then the other one you can choose whatever one makes sense. So for Thok, I would use strength and, of course, close combat in just about every situation, unless another situation comes up in which another quality would make more sense. And some of them will combine actions where I think Absolute Zero has a ice shield, which is a defense. Let's actually read the thing so I know what the fuck it is. Ice Shield. Defend using cold. Use your max die. Boost the target of that defense using your min die. So basically, it's a souped up defend action combined with a not so great boost action. I'm not sure how you boost someone with cold. Maybe you put ice armor on them, which would help them with the defend action. You defend them while also allowing them to boost their own defend action. That's awesome. Or give them like ice weapons or something, and they can boost their own attack action. That is also fun. All of these things are fun. You should also note the type. It'll either be A, I, or R. A is an action, I is inherent, and it's basically a passive. It's just naturally there. Like Legacy and Bunker have an inherent damage resistance, and then Reaction, which is basically an action as a response to someone else. Now, where creativity can come into play is with the risky actions. Risky actions are kind of the in-between actions. You got your basic actions, which everyone can do. You got your abilities, which are these super advanced actions that only you can do, and they're really awesome and great, and probably going to be the things you do the most. So if you have something you want to do that you don't have as a green action, that's what basic actions are for. For example, if you're Unity, you might want to attack someone and she doesn't have any green attacks, so you could just use the basic attack action, or the risky action, which is a basic action that you've modified. Or it's like an ability that you don't have as much practice with, so it's going to backfire in some way. And you can do stuff like have your attack affect an extra opponent, or use the max die instead of the mid die. You can also hit the deck, as I say, which is basically a risky defend action that you do out of turn. So if someone's going to attack you and you hadn't defended, you could take on a minor twist in order to use the basic defend action. That's something to keep in mind. And you know, there's a lot more to it, obviously, but really that's about all you need to know to get started. I am going to browbeat and blackmail my friends into playing a couple sessions of this with me. And when we do that, I'll get back to you, and we'll do a proper review and all that shit. All right, that's it for today. If you like this video, want to see more, subscribe and give me money on Patreon and all that good shit. You know the drill. Fly, my minions, fly.